Hi, Henning Pauli here. If you followed the ridiculous series of buying guide, opinion advice thingies for Blackmagic Design, switches and cameras, you might at some point have given up, which makes sense. At some point, you might have ended up here. I'm showing you my 3 studios in a series of ATEM setups and how to use this stuff, and maybe giving you some ideas of where your journey can lead you once you start with a little mini switcher, whatever, GoPro, whatever you have, and then just build from there. I did build a little bit faster than the sane person because I'm not. So we're right now here in my Studio B, which I personally actually don't use that much anymore. Studio A, which we have a separate video for, and Studio C, which we also have a separate video for. I do use, this is being used by my friend Rafael Cano for songwriting analysis videos, and of course, once a year doing 42 Gear Street. Now, it is obviously a lot of investment and complete and utter overkill to have this and not use it. But I do need it for my YouTube event, and once in a while I can utilize this for other things if I need to. So let me run you through the setup. We're gonna start in the actual studio room here. I'm gonna flip the camera around. So the room has, there's a keyboard from Rafa. The room has a very nice depth, and that means we get a beautiful blurriness and bokeh in the background. And to get more of that depth in there, we have these IKEA lights hanging from the ceiling to give you something in the middle, and then some lights in the background. And we have, again, just like in Studio C, from Cameo, a Pix bar back there, which actually doesn't change color, it always stays purple, and 2 40-watt RGB spots. There's one on the right, giving an accent. There's one on the right, giving the accent right there. And there's one on the left, giving an accent right there. Other than that, up here is a light panel's caliber. These are nice daylight lights. And I needed a spot in the middle because that wall was dark. I'll show you. See, that was just somehow lame. And then we needed a spot there. So if you have a studio that is a studio, not like my Studio A where you actually have to live and work, where you can have cables hanging around that you don't see on camera, you can also utilize something like this. And these are actually really cheap. These are from Gravity. And they spread out to almost 4 meters, I think. And then you tighten these bars in the back. So they're just squeezed in between the walls. And you can hang, you know, lighter cameras and lights and whatever from them. And if you're actually not stretching out the whole width, I'm actually using a little bit more than they can do, which means I had to put wood underneath there. But over here you can see that's where my shotgun mic comes in right out of frame. That's a Sennheiser 416. And there's also the top cam. These are Dedo D-LED 4s, complete and utter overkill. Don't look up the pricing. It hurts me to know that they're sitting there not doing much most of the year. Manfrotto Magic arms and a D-LED 4 on the left and a D-LED 4 on the right for headlights and beautiful halo illumination. Then in the front here, the main light with a small dome on a beautiful gravity stand. I love these gravity stands. Just like this TV, which is also on a gravity stand. They have very nice heavy metal base plates. This is an Aperture 300X, and that is actually the one that is not just daylight. So Aperture 300X, very, very powerful right now, you know, on 70%. And then on the left and right, we got these light panels Astra 6, also bicolor. So there's one there, and there's one over there, and that means we definitely don't have any shadow or whatever on the people. Okay, moving on to the interesting stuff, cameras. We have right now 6 of them here. So there's the main cam in the middle. And as you can see, always in the studios, you can see as the talent in front of the camera what's going on because we have screens that show you what is being switched at the moment. So here we have 3 of those Ultra HD studio cams, the previous generation before they came out with the 4K Plus G2 or the 4K Pro G2 or even the 6K. And they have a little bit less functionality, no touchscreen, all this. They definitely have been around for quite a while, and I had a good deal on a whole bunch of them. They're really just sitting there because we don't have camera people behind them. So output for the video, input for the control, and big 12-volt plug. And the great thing is you can get extension cables for these, which means you can really just run these cables as long as you want to. And they come with these power supplies, and you can just extend them, as you can see right there, with a 12-volt extension cable that you can buy at any professional video place. On this one, I have the 20mm, which I think in the US clocks in under $200, and that's an amazing lens with a 1.7 aperture. These are, bang for the buck, the best lenses you can get. I use them all over the place, the 20 and the 25. Otherwise, I just couldn't afford all the lenses for these cameras. Now, on the main cam, because it is relatively close to the Talent, I needed something really wide that doesn't distort. So I bought this 12mm prime, and that is, I think, $1,200 or something. It's really expensive, but it's a very good lens. So if you're really close to the camera and you don't want warping or whatever, you're gonna have to fork over money. Over here is the third one that has the 25 on it. They make a lot of sense because they're affordable, and again, the 1.7 aperture. I think this, does it have, this is actually 1.4, the 12. Absolutely nice. And now here is an example of integrating a different camera. Now, I always need one that does autofocus when I'm holding products into the camera, and the Blackmagic don't do that. So this is an A6400 from Sony, 4K capable, doesn't overheat when it's on the live switching. It can overheat when you're recording internally, which is why you have to turn on the non-overheat mode and then fold up the screen so there's more airflow going to the back. Doesn't really interest me because I have it on the live switching system. It's not ideal because it's got this micro HDMI, but if you just plug it in and don't fiddle with it, you're good. And that is going to an HDMI to SDI converter, which of course with SDI is going into the system. The camera's powered with this thing that came with it, which is just USB, and that is actually going into the battery compartment. It's a dummy battery. Now this camera, unlike the Blackmagic Pockets, again, they're made for different things, actually has a screen that fully folds up, and as a creator, you can see what's going on, and then it actually even flips around. Not really necessary here because we see what's going on the big screen. So those are the 4 cameras to the front, and this is also the only one that can zoom, so we can actually get different angles here and even get really close to the action and show an amp panel or something like this. And if I had to, I can get one of my big Canons over here. That's why we have an extra tripod. We call this the Move Cam. That is the camera that can be operated by a camera operator, and that has a lot of zoom, 150mm on those Canons, to get amp panels or absolute details. And there should be an SDI cable on the floor somewhere. So all I gotta do is plug it in, SDI. I mean, within 30 seconds, we have another camera installed. On the top here, we call that the top cam. I wish that was one of the Blackmagic cameras, but it isn't. That's a Sony AX, I think, 53. 4K camera, micro HDMI, not ideal, but we see the keyboard from above, and we actually do, Raphael's wife, when they film in here, she does a cutout at the bottom where you just see the keys, you don't see the keyboard, you don't see anything, you just see the keys. So she's using this as a key, an upstream key, to only show the keys when he's playing underneath them. So that is there with Triad Orbit stuff on this gravity boom, whatever you want to call it. And this camera actually has a power cable that came with it that's hanging there, and back there is a power strip. My first Blackmagic camera that kind of started the whole journey, Also ridiculous, and I don't know why I bought it, I think it was $3,000, was this Blackmagic cinema camera. Recording on it in like a flat log, okay, fine. When it outputs in video, it's way green. The tint is massively off. I could never color match that to anything, and recording that along with other cameras and showing the same things was a problem because the colors were totally off. Showing something that the other cameras aren't showing is easier, because then you don't see the same colors, it doesn't matter. So that's got a 16-35 Canon on it, it's got an EF mount, and it does have SDI. It actually does not have HDMI output, does it? Nope, it doesn't have an HDMI output. Got audio, I mean, you can't get these anymore. They had a touchscreen, very, very, very few things you can actually set up on the camera. So this was kind of the precursor to the BMPCC, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera. But since I have it, and on the used market, it's pretty much useless, that actually, very cool, records on SSDs internally. You can actually shove an SSD in there. Very nice workflow. I liked working with this camera, but it's got an internal battery that you can't exchange with like no battery life. So you had to have it on the external. I mean, it's, you know, Blackmagic, it had its problems, but quality great. And that was what they had before the Pocket Cinemas. And I'm still using it for weird angles and actually with a wide angle to show the amplifiers back here when I'm doing videos in here and I'm saying, I'm using this amp, and then I'm switching to that camera. There's a monitor speaker, so I hear what I'm doing when I'm going direct. So now let's go into the control room, which is, there's the studio, there's the control room. A pretty soundproof door, actually. You hear all the ruckus in there. It's very quiet now. Now we actually just hear the fans in here. Oh, all the cables, let me show you this, are going into the corner right there. So they end up in the other room. It's not pretty, it's not a pretty setup. It's super dirty. It's not like Studio C, where I'm using the new Studio 4K Pros with just one cable. A much, much cleaner setup over there. This is a place where you work, but you're not happy about it. Let me put it this way. It does work though. This is labeled B3, the rooms are labeled. There is room B2, which is actually just storage for cases. And trust me, once you ramp up and you have more cameras and more gear, you will want, I don't even know what look, there's a Lewitt, I think it's called the presenter. Interviewer? What? These are the cables I'm always looking for. It's all here. There's a dB meter. Ah, look, but there's a, how did the, So I don't even want to know what else is in these cases that I've been looking for a long time. That is B2. In B4, we have no light, but we have cables. We have insanely, ridiculously long, thick, unwieldy, and not practical HDMI cables. And if you can see that, here we've got the SDI cables. We have a lot more length if we need that. And they're coming through the wall right there. So if you're doing a control room situation like I have here, you will want to, plan and have holes in the walls and have them running efficiently. And then in here, they're coming through the wall down there. This desk I built relatively inexpensively. I usually build my own desks. It's just I think $60 board, legs, and then just put a long 2x4 underneath for stability. And it's working nicely. Again, back there, not the cleanest setup. I can't really show you much in here in terms of switching, because the computer that's usually sitting there, it's an old Mac, Raphael took with him. But the main unit, the main hardware unit here is the 1ME Production Studio 4K. That is still available today for $2,700. It is 4K, 10 inputs, 1 input HDMI. However, again, can you hear it? It is loud. What you're hearing here is this and the hyperdeck. So these old Blackmagic Design units were ridiculously loud. The new stuff is greatly improved. So in this setup, this is an amazing case. So if you're going mobile and you want to have a rack unit from Blackmagic Design and maybe the studio converters or HyperDeck or whatever, this is amazing because you put your laptop or actually the television studio 4K here, whatever you need rack mounted, everything is pre-wired. You fold this thing down, and you take the whole thing. So I have done location stuff at Kettner and other places with this. Not enough to warrant having one, trust me, really not. So this I also got used. It's the video something screen from Blackmagic Design. The great thing of this screen is it is rack mountable, as you can see. So it's great for mobile and location. But the amazing thing is it does have, where's input here? Input, right? It is actually a full 2160p25 screen, or 2160 screen. It is actually 4K in this size. Most screens can display 4K, but are actually HD. And this is actually 4K. It's a super crisp picture. That shows you the input, for example, but also by clicking twice, we have a secondary SDI in. So I could have, which I usually do, multi-view there if I wanted. So multi-view there, double click, and you have program. There's also peaking, duck, it's never not funny. So you actually have focus peaking, which is great to focus. There are actually LUTs that you can apply. Not cheap, it's over 1,000 marks, 1,200 or something, but if you need a very professional, dependable screen, that's great. There's my first recorder that I ever had. Don't ask me what it is. Little recorder thingy, records on SD cards. Personally, I wouldn't want to record on SD cards anymore because of speeds and reliability. It's possible, and Blackmagic Design has a range of smaller recorders that do record to SD cards, as well as the HyperDecks. This is the HyperDeck Pro, whatever, 4K. It now records, you can actually see the difference. The old one underneath recorded only on SSDs. The new one records on SSD and SD cards. There are slots for SD cards. Sadly, Blackmagic Design not at the same time. And I ask why? Because that would actually eliminate the need for me to have a second HyperDeck. Record on SD and SSD. Give the client the SD home or whatever, or have backup. Why not record on both at the same time? It doesn't do it. That's a web presenter, HD only. Now the web presenters are pretty much built into most of the switchers anyway. USB out, bam, just stream from them. But I could stream with this. I think first, or actually maybe the first thing that I bought, and then I realized, oh wait, you can switch. That's what I did, yeah. And then I realized you can switch between two different cameras. And then I realized, wait, maybe switching is a clever idea. And then I started buying things. This is actually what started the whole journey. Yeah, so this is a great box. To replace this, again, at the moment, the only thing rack mountable, that's 4K capable Insta Constellation 4K for 9,000 bucks. And it doesn't make sense to put that here. I don't see any other thing I could use, except for the Television Studio 4K that I have, which could actually go here, and already has been installed here. I took it back out. Here's the multi-view, which looks like ass. Because when you're running this in 4K, with this switcher, very old generation, the multi-view can only be 1080i, so interlaced. So you can absolutely see it jitter and flicker, and it's a horrible picture. Okay, I mean, I want my multi-views really to be 4K as well. The screen is 4K, but this means this is an HD picture, which means the preview up there is only SD. So focusing is guesswork, which is why we have this with focus peaking. Duck. We switched this, because I didn't spring for an advanced panel here. We have switched this for the longest time with these air steps. They charge, this is charged, okay. They are Bluetooth. They just connect with the software. No, actually they don't. They just connect with the computer, and all they do is they send key commands. So this is actually just the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 2 means poop, number 3, number 4, number 5, and so on. You have to have the software open, and have it in cut mode, meaning you cannot do preview, you cannot do keys, you cannot do anything. All you can do is just do hard cuts. And it worked for a long time. It's a little bit clicky. Now, a good thing when you're working by yourself is you can actually program a dead man switch. So if you're working completely by yourself and you have an ATEM Mini, for example, put the software in cut mode. You cannot do anything on the computer at that time because the software has to be the active open software. So if you want to, let's say, play a video game, the video game will get the key commands. So you cannot use this for gaming videos or for computer tutorials. But let's say you've got a camera on you, camera on your woodworking right hand, and then under the desk for whatever. You could say, that's the main cam. Here you can say, go to the right hand, and then when you let go, it sends number 1 again. So it's a click it, hold it, so it's a momentary switch. And then when you let go, it sends another command, which will be number 1. So when you push, it sends the number 2. And when you let go, it sends number 1 again. So that means it's you don't have to click, do something, and then you forget that you were on the wrong camera, and then click 1 again. No, you just hold, and you go to the... and you're back to you talking. You hold, you're under the desk, you're back to you talking. You hold, you're on your saw, back to you talking. Great system for working by yourself with an ATEM switcher. However, it is a bit clicky, and the software has to be open and no other software can be active. Which is why we went to the Stream Deck, which of course isn't on now, using the companion software, and I can actually just mirror what the software, the ATEM software shows you with preview, with cutout, with transitions, anything you want you can populate right there. As my speakers in here, again, as you can see, iLouds from IK. I love these things, super high end, super high quality, and absolutely tiny. I didn't go for the big digital PreSonus mixer. I went for this one because for basic routing, it's enough. It's got 4 buses, it's got basic EQing and gating and stuff like this. So I didn't need the, 2,400 euro mixer. I spent 1,000, which is still a lot, but I do want a dedicated audio machine in these rooms so that audio routing can happen. Actually, the audio is being recorded up here on a Zoom F6, 32-bit float recorder, very good quality, very dependable. And actually the main voice audio is going in here first, and then out of the headphone out, we go in here for monitoring, then into the switcher, which then goes into the speakers, meaning what you hear out of the speakers is absolutely what arrives in the switcher. And the levels you see here, if they're distorting or whatever, you will hear it because we're monitoring the output of the switcher. That's for audio, that's for the audio in here. And Rafa and his wife, they come in here and they can handle the room easily. They set up in no time at all. It is not a cleanly set up work environment. Look at this, it's chaos. We've got 2 040s here from Lewitt. One goes to the monitor speaker out there, that's actually talkback. The other one is a talkback that we send to a headphone if someone is in there working on a camera, so you can actually communicate with your camera operator. Of course, with Blackmagic Design and the newer switchers, there are talkbacks built into the switchers and the higher end cameras so that you can communicate with your camera operator, who might be smooth, who knows, might be a smooth operator. We don't have that here. We built our own setup. Of course, always hard drives, so you can just start running. You might notice there's a green cable in the corner there, going through a cable channel, going into the ceiling. Let's follow that. For that, we have to go into the kitchen. Ooh, it is cold. Wow, it is cold. Do you want to see what happened here overnight? Look at this. Woo, there is snow everywhere. Kind of pretty. So in the kitchen here, there's a cable coming out of the ceiling. And it arrives right here because it's called doo-doo. This is where I have the video transmitter in HD because this switcher also has an HD down convert out, which again they don't do anymore. Very, very sad. I don't know why they don't do that. Even on the high-end switcher, no HD down convert. I think it's important. In the future, I'll have to use external devices for that. But in here, I can still do it. Down converts to HD. I put the transmitter here, and then it transmits over there into the driveway. Look at that pretty sky. Right there, where there's a TV, so people can actually see in real time what is happening right here in the studio. Remember when I said you'll always need more than you think you do? So in every studio, you can see more lights, more speakers, speaker cables, guitar cables, American voltage transformers. And remember when I said you always have to have those micro cables? Yes. There's usually brand new ones right here. So do never ever buy the cables that you need. Buy the cables that you need and then some. Buy the power plugs that you need and then some. Palmer battery pack. Nice. There is always everywhere more stuff. Again, micro HDMI and micro HDMI, many of them, because you'll need them. Oh, that was it, Studio B. Now, if you are thinking, oh my God, I want to work in a place like this and record my videos, but I can't afford any of this, that place is for rent. You can literally come and, work there. I mean, if you are in Germany. Studio C, which is, I think, even cooler. You can rent. There's a guest room, all that. So, sorry, Sweetwater. I know you want to sell things, but I also want to sell the studios. Chances are slim that someone's going to do that. I'm just saying you can actually come here and produce your videos here if you're in Europe, Germany. Come a few days, create content for a month, and then go home. But you don't have to obviously start with this. I didn't start with this. I started with a web presenter and switched 2 cameras around and slowly, fastly improved and got more stuff to do more things. You think I'm nuts? The only reason why I have 3 of these places, well, 1, I work in, 2, 4 Gear Street, which is a very important event for the guitar community, for me, and the other studio, Studio C, we built again for Gear Street, but also because my neighbor died and I had to buy the house and had to do something with it. So circumstances are weird here. You're not in those circumstances. Start with an ATEM Mini, see if that workflow works. Maybe if your mom, neighbor, friend, wife, girlfriend, someone you hire can switch for you. And if you maybe can create more content, better content, and stay more sane, because I have a lot of friends in this industry who are suffering from burnout, depression, overworking. Many people think being an influencer or YouTuber is just sitting there and being silly. For some it is, for some it isn't. So anything you've seen, most of it is available at Sweetwater. I put links below, please use them. And there's another video on Studio C coming, which for me, I think is the pinnacle, the best of what I've created so far, because all the experience that I had in building these studios and putting stuff together comes together there. And there I built what I really wanted, minus a few pieces of gear that I would like but couldn't afford. But hey, we got time, right? So enjoy the last video coming up, and then links below and animals at the end.